Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
Welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining me today and hanging out with me. And I'm really excited about this podcast. It is something I love to talk about because I don't think a lot of people know about this fermented food called miso. And I'm really excited to talk about it. I have written a blog or an article on it, and I put a bunch of recipes on there that are using miso. So I'm going to put the link in the description below so you can head on over to culturefoodlife.com and click on the podcast, and you'll have a link to the article and you'll have a link to the recipes too, so that you won't be without all the information that you can have. Now, I have always loved miso, but I didn't know a lot about it or how good it was for you. And I've learned so much about it in this last year. It's something I have all the time, almost constantly, at least every other day, sometimes every day. But I really want you to know about it because it's so easy to use and so many benefits that I'm really excited to tell you about it because I don't think you know about it. And I think it'll be something easy to incorporate into your life. So many people, when they think of miso, they mostly think about miso soup, which you get at a lot of restaurants for your Japanese meals, things like that. But it is so much more than just something that you put in soup, although you could do that all the time and it's super easy to do. It has an incredible microbial makeup, and it's really a nutritional powerhouse, and it's very simple to use and make. Recipes that I found myself using constantly because it's so easy to go pick it up at the health food store and it lasts just about forever in your fridge. Miso is a salty paste that's made from fermented beans, and usually it's soybeans, but it also can be made with chickpeas or other beans. And what you basically do to make miso is you add salt and koji, which is the fungus Aspergillus oziae, which is actually made from fermenting rice. And it's been around for millions of years. It's so interesting how it works. And when you add this koji to the beans, it takes quite a while to make. It can take a couple months. It can even take years to make really good miso. Most people do it in 3 to 6 months. But it's one of the easiest ferments to make. It just takes a long time to make it. But the cool thing is, the longer it ferments, the better it tastes and the better it ages. And the enzymes in the koji work together with the microorganisms in the environment to break down the structure of the beans and grains into amino acids, fatty acids, simple sugar, and a lot of vitamins and minerals. And a lot of people are really, really freaked out when I say, there's a type of fungus that can ferment things. And, we've been trained to believe that's bad. And it really isn't, because we are bacteria, we are fungus, we've got viruses in us, we've got all of these things in our bodies and also all around us. And we really want to create biodiversity in the fact that we want to work together with nature and with the things around us to help boost our immune systems and to help us to become a part of not only where we live and what we live in, but with our microbiome, with the soils and the bacteria in the soils and the funguses that are actually really good for us, the good yeast. They're really important for us because that's what our bodies are made out of. And miso is one that has so many different compounds in it. And it starts out with a lot of different organisms in it, and then it slowly gets down as it ages over the months and months and months to where it's perfectly preserved. It can last forever in your refrigerator. And I recommend you buying it at the health food store because it does take several months to make. And although it's fun to make, I do think that the benefits are so great, and getting one that has been aged a long time really does give you a lot of benefits that you might otherwise not get in the next few months if you don't buy some. So there's different kinds, and I'm going to get into that later, but miso has a really salty taste, and there's salt in it. But don't worry about that salt raising your blood pressure, because with the incredible help of the microbes, it actually seems that it lowers blood pressure rather than raising it. Miso is reported to inhibit angiotensin converting enzymes, or ACE is a more common way to say it, activity. And this angiotensin system has a very strong impact on your blood pressure, and including salt-sensitive hypertensions. But miso was found to decrease blood pressure and sympathetic activity through the inhibiting the ACE activity. And I have a research on that. I'll put that in the description below. You can check out that article on it that shows you it's really interesting how it actually does the opposite of what it says. Now, I have found that with cultured foods in general. Even though, for instance, like when you make cultured vegetables and you put salt in them, if you use good mineral salts and then through the process of fermentation, it doesn't seem to increase blood pressure because of the good bacteria that's in there that seems to work on these types of enzymes that raise blood pressure. So that's a really good thing, because miso is a very salty paste. So miso soup has been eaten in Japan and China for many centuries, and it's been attracting the attentions of many because of its health and anti-aging benefits. And it's really delicious and so easy to use. And one of the things I do when you aren't feeling well, a bowl of miso soup can be really soothing to your gut. You simply make a broth. You can use any kind of vegetable broth, chicken, whatever kind of broth you have. You add some veggies. I usually chop up some green onions or some spinach, or even just add a few seaweed leaves in there. And then you simply, you bring your water, to make it hot to a boil, take it off the stove. You want to make sure it's not boiling. Take it off the stove for about 3 or 4 minutes and then mix in some of the miso paste and to just stir it into your soup, and you have miso soup. I do it all the time. It's kind of a nice thing to have in when you're hungry, but you don't want to make a lot because it literally takes a few minutes to make. And I have some soup recipes on the article, and I'll leave that description in the link below. And because miso is fermented, it is filled with beneficial live probiotic cultures, and it's really good for strengthening the immune system, and it also helps to combat viral infections too. So miso lasts forever in your fridge. So it gets better with age, it doesn't turn rancid or spoil, and that's due to the beneficial microbe compounds that's in miso. So when I keep mine in the refrigerator, the longer I have it, the better it tastes. I even know some miso from some people. I've been reading some articles where it's been 10 years old, and the microbes in the miso preserve it, keep out the pathogens, and when you eat it, it preserves you too and has those anti-aging benefits. This is kind of interesting because the oldest miso to date is in the Ohio Miso Company, 1979 to 1980, and they say it still tastes quite good, has an earthy flavor similar to bouillon cubes. And that I found very interesting. So let me get to some of the health benefits of miso. Miso, one of my favorite books. I actually had a podcast. I need to go find that I did with this couple that wrote the book Miso Tempo and Other Tasty Ferments, Kristen Shockey, and I think her husband's name is Christopher. And I interviewed them, and they sent me their book. I just absolutely loved it. It has a bunch of stuff on miso if you're interested. It's a great book. I'll link that below too, because it tells you how to make it. It's quite easy to make, but it does take a long time. But if you're interested in more of that, I'll try to find that podcast too, so you can listen to that. And Kristen Shockey, who's the author of that book, she explained that miso can help with our cholesterol. It helps keep our arteries clean. And it said raw soybeans contain saponins, which produce a soap-like froth when you wash them. So once we consume them in miso, they continue to act as a washing agent, but this time inside our blood vessels, which can become blocked with cholesterol. So the saponins are joined by the lecithin and the linic acid, which helps dissolve cholesterol that's clinging to our blood vessels. And a study that was published in the Japanese Pharmacology and Therapeutics used Japanese adult male volunteers whose serum total cholesterol levels were between 200 and 280 milligrams, and showed that consuming miso soup for 3 months resulted in a 7.6% decrease in total cholesterol levels. and they significantly lowered the bad LDL cholesterol compared to the placebo that was used. Miso, this is my favorite part, that miso also offers protections from many types of cancers and even radiation poisoning. In human studies, regular miso consumption may reduce the risk of liver, breast cancer by 50 to 54%. And I have all the links for that, the research. And it appears that breast cancer protection appears to be very beneficial for postmenopausal women. Now, there was a doctor, and I'm probably going to butcher his name, but Terasuke Ziki, MD, he used miso to treat those who were sick and had survived the dropping of the atomic bomb on Nagasaki. And he wrote about that experience after the war and how he survived Nagasaki was the article that he wrote. And here is what he said in his own words. He was a medical doctor that was treating these victims of the bombing. And he said on August 9th, 1945, the atomic bomb was dropped on Nagasaki and it killed many thousands of people. The hospital that I was in charge of at the time was located only 1 mile from the center of the blast, and it was destroyed completely. My assistants and I helped many victims who suffered from the effects of the bomb. In my hospital, there was a large stock of miso and tamari, the liquid that comes off the miso during the fermentation process, and it's also used as a condiment in a soup stock, so he had all of that. And we kept plenty of brown rice and wakimi, that's a vegetable, like a seaweed type of a vegetable. And so I fed my coworkers brown rice and miso soup every day. And I remember that none of them suffered from that atomic radiation, and I believe it was because we had been consuming so much of the miso soup. And there's been quite a bit of research on how effective it is for people who are suffering with cancers and problems with radiation poisoning. It's a really amazing thing that a food can be so beneficial for that. And it's also delicious and easy to make. And one of the things that I absolutely love about miso is the B vitamins that you get. Now, you got to have B vitamins to have a good, healthy immune system. They're essential to keeping your immune system strong. And miso is brimming with lots of B vitamins, B1, which is thiamine, B2, riboflavin, B3, niacin, B5, pantothenic acid, and B9, folate, and also B3, B5, B9, and even B12, which is especially important to protect and support the nervous system and ensures it functions properly. If you don't get enough B12, which is really hard to get, I don't even think it's in plants. You either have to get it from a fermented food or from some kind of animal source, or you have to get a supplement for it. Because without B12, if you get low levels, you can cause irreversible nerve damage in your body because it's so essential for so many functions in your body. And B12 is really important. But the process of fermentation in all foods, including things like kefir, kombucha, cultured vegetables, all the B vitamins that are in those foods prior to fermentation increase with the process of fermentation. And miso is no exception. It also increases those B vitamins. And once it's fermented, the lactic acid bacteria that's in there helps produce those extra B vitamins and increases them a lot. In any of the fermentation foods that we eat, you're going to get more B vitamins when something's fermented than if you eat something that's just a raw food. And that's the beauty of fermentation. Those little microorganisms increase those essential vitamins for us, and we eat them, we consume them, we get all those benefits. Miso also helps with brain health. All fermented foods, kefir, kombucha, cultured vegetable help with brain health, and miso is one of them too, because the lack of B vitamins can damage the myelin sheath that surrounds and protects the nerves in your body. And even, like I said before, that B12 deficiency, even a mild one, can affect your central nervous system, and it also affects the proper functioning of your brain. And I see this a lot when people don't get enough B12. And one of the things that you need to be able to absorb B12 or any of the B vitamins is to have good gut flora. Because if you don't have good gut flora, you can't get the B vitamin benefits because your body can't absorb them. I had a friend that came to my house, and she had 3 little kids, and she was having a lot of all kinds of anemia and depression and all these different things. And she went to her doctor, and she had been on a very strict, I think, plant-based diet, but she wasn't supplementing at all. And so her doctor found that she was so low in B vitamins that even though she was taking them, she wasn't absorbing them. But when she started to consume cultured foods, she got that gut flora that allowed her to get those B vitamins into her body, and she really healed and got so much better. All probiotic foods and especially miso may have benefits for brain health by improving your memory, reducing symptoms of anxiety, stress, depression. I see that a lot with people that aren't getting the proper nutrients. They start to struggle emotionally, anxiety, all kinds of different emotional disorders can happen when you're not getting the vitamins and minerals that your body needs. And there have been many studies to support this too, and I'll link that below. The different types of miso, there's so many. If you go to your health food store, and a lot of your regular grocery stores have them too, and the flavors change depending on the length of the fermentation of the miso. And the longer the process, the darker the miso will become. And all these misos can be stirred into broth, soups. You can make them into salad. You can put them in salad dressings. You can put them in dips. And I've done that. I've got some recipes for you. And you'll love having this stable probiotic powerhouse in your fridge that seems to last forever and ever. And you can make it yourself, like I said before, but it does take a long time. So the most common types of miso is brown, yellow, red, and white. They're usually made from soybeans, but they also make them with chickpeas and things like that. And the result is a lighter color and gives the final product a little bit sweeter taste. The lighter the color, the sweeter the taste of the miso. And it also means that it hasn't been fermented as long. And I like the one I like the best is white miso. I use it most often, although I have the others too. And I use it in salad dressing, soups, and even sauces and things that I put on veggies or any kind of my entrees that I make for dinner. And it's so delicious. It makes a wonderful condiment for like, I have a peanut butter condiment or a nut butter condiment that you can make from miso that you're going to love. It's super easy and it takes like a minute to make. Okay, so brown or yellow miso is made with fermented soybeans and barley. And it's slightly stronger than white miso, but it's not as strong as red miso. It tastes good. You can use it in marinades, glazes for chicken and fish or vegetables. And I love it. I love the brown and yellow miso. I've got a recipe I just put on there that uses it, and it tastes really good. Now, red miso is made from soybeans that have been fermented for a very long period of time. And usually they'll use like barley or rice. And it tends to have a deep, rich, salty flavor, plus a darker color that ranges from red to brown. You only need to use a little bit of it to get the flavor, and it's great on marinades for, just about anything, but it also is great in salads. And I have a prebiotic cheese dip that actually is dairy-free, but it's made from vegetables that I have miso in it. Just tastes fantastic. And that's on the blog too with all the recipes. And white miso is probably the one that I use the most. And it does have the sweetest taste of them all. And I use that probably more than the others, but I do have all of them in my fridge. But here are some of the recipes that I have on this article that I will link you to that I think you'll really like. I have an apple rice miso, which is so good for anybody who's, I like it to serve with, whatever I'm eating for dinner. We do stuff all the time. I'll put it over I have like a vegetable curry and I have a chicken curry that I make, and I'll serve this rice underneath, and it's super easy to make. It's super delicious, and it has a little bit of miso in it, and it's really good for anybody who's got an upset stomach. It's a very much a comfort food, but I love this one. I also have a cauliflower miso soup, which is probably the easiest soup in the world to make, and it only has a few ingredients, but it's delicious and creamy, and you can make it in no time at all. I told you about the cheese dip. That's really not cheese. It's mostly vegetables, but tastes like cheese. and it's got miso in it. I have a miso hot chocolate, is to die for. I've been drinking it constantly when I'm cold, especially in the mornings. I have miso soup recipes. I have little roll-ups that that are really good, these little roll-ups. I have the miso nut butter. I have Thai soup, but I have some other vegetable recipes on there too. And just some really simple, easy things to make with miso in them that you can start incorporating into your life. The easiest way is to boil some broth of some kind and add people will add tofu to it, or they can add, you can add chicken, you can add whatever you want, or vegetables, spring onions, a little bit of seaweed if you want, or you could just add some carrots. Boil the water, take it off the stove, and then stir in a spoonful of miso. And that's the fastest way to get miso. And the thing with the heat with miso, you don't want to put in boiling water because that will kill the beneficial microbes. But if you take it off the heat and you let it sit for like 5 minutes, and it's perfect. And you just mix that miso in and you get all the benefits. So I love it. I think it's an easy thing. It's a great filler-upper in between meals when you're hungry and you want something to fill you up, to hold you for dinner. It's fantastic for that. It takes a minute to make if you have some miso in your fridge. And it's a great way to help your immune system, your brain health, your cholesterol. It helps detoxify you. It helps to give you things that normally your body, and also one of the other things I want to mention is that it also has a lot of vitamin K, so it makes for strong bones. It helps your bones to be stronger because it's got, those special vitamins and minerals that you need to promote healthy, strong bones in your body. And it's just a fantastic food, and I love it because it's easy and it's accessible. And one of these days I'm going to make it, but it's just I'm not very patient. Three months is a long time for me to ferment something, but I guess it's super easy to make. So you just need the koji and some beans and some salt, and it's super easy. But I'll link that description of that book, and she's got a lot of good recipes in there. She's got a ton of recipes on how to make miso. It's a great book too. She's got such good information in there, and they did a good job. And I'll try to find that podcast too. But anyway, I'm just trying to get you to eat more miso because I think it's going to help you. That's the bottom line. It helps me a lot. And I think, we don't know what's going on inside of our bodies, or, we don't know how our arteries are doing, but why not have some of these foods incorporated into your diet, these beneficial probiotic foods in your diet, and let them do the work for you. Let them, go in and scrub out your arteries. It's just food. It's not drugs. It doesn't have side effects. It's just a food that's enjoyable to eat. It's easy to eat. And they've been eating it for gazillions of years in China and Japan. And I can't think of anything easier to make than this. And I just wanted to introduce you to miso. I haven't talked about it too much, but I think it's important because it's one of those foods that could also change your life and change your diet and help you to crave the good foods that you need. So, guys, thanks for listening. Spend a little bit of time with me. I hope you'll learn to love miso like I have. I hope you'll incorporate it to your life, and then I hope you tell your friends. I hope they know about it, because I think everything we can do to help one another to be healthier is a good thing. And it makes the world, especially for brain health and for having healthy emotions and having a good immune system, everybody needs just a little bit in their diet, and it could change so many things. So have a good week, guys, and thanks for tuning in. Head on over to my blog, culturedfoodlife.com. Check out all my recipes for miso and all the other articles, and hopefully we'll see you next week.